our distribution method is the you can't avoid us model.
Any way I can get rid of the in-camera picture on vMix here?
Well, you want the one that's framed in red?
Yes.
No, that's just shows what you're sending to us.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, you can resize it and you can move it.
Got it.
If you have the opportunity to move it to right
We're all good.
under your camera, then that's a good thing too.
Yeah,
Let's
we're good.
see. Just waiting for is the stream live, Suncast? You're a good man.
Don't forget to roll the music intro, Suncast.
We actually produced
there's
that
no
later.
Music intro.
We produced that later. Let me like and share this to
You the band.
And give me just a second. We'll get back to this. Just takes a minute to share this out to different places. Okay. Well, the good news, Chuck, is that we've just done the hardest part.
Perfect. You read the manual.
The rest of the show is easy. It's all down here. It's an easy ride downhill from here. Let me hit this over to the Broadcasting Club. And we'll post that. And one more place to post it, and we'll be ready to go.
I actually worked up a sweat trying to get this thing to work.
I hear you. One more place. Let's see. Let's do a page. This Week in Radio Tech. Switch to This Week in Radio Tech. And post. And in just a minute, that should be ready to go. All right. Good. Transmitter's turned on, so to speak. And let me go back and find which of my 47 tabs has Chuck Bullet on it. Oh, there it is. Okay, good. Chuck, we have fun. And
in the old days, we would say we just hit 2 and raise, and we're ready to go.
Yes, two and raise. Did everybody put the plates on 2?
That's why that relay always failed first.
Oh, okay. Yeah, seems like filaments are on 1 and plates are on 2. All righty. Right. Suncast, are you rolling? You ready? Awesome. Thank you very much. Take a deep breath. If I fall asleep, I've got some Rockstar Pure Zero here. I don't know if it's good or bad for you, but it does keep me awake during these 4-hour shows. Oh, did I mention that, Chuck? All right, here we go. It's episode 756 for July 10th, and we'll start the show in 3, 2. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to that light bulb from the top of the tower. Hello, I'm Kirk Harnack. I'm delighted that you've joined us for our 756th episode of TWiRT, This Week in Radio Tech. We try to talk about technical ideas and engineering processes and notions and theories and practice. A lot of practice. We really try to talk about practice. And it's applicable mostly to radio, but also things we talk about are good. Well, today's topic is good for a lot of different disciplines. We're going to apply it to radio, but you can apply this to television engineering or almost any kind of technical engineering if you're responsible for keeping things working. I'm here in the Telos Alliance studio in Nashville, Tennessee, where it's a beautiful summer day, a little bit warm out there today. What is the temperature out there? It is, it's 87. It's not too terrible. It was hotter last week. And let's see, Chris Tarr is not apparently with us today, so we're gonna fill the whole show ourselves. My guest, I'm so glad to introduce my guest to you. I've known this man for probably 20 plus years. I met him in San Francisco many, many years ago, followed him on Facebook for probably as long as we've both been on. And ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Chuck Bullet. Chuck, welcome in. It's great to see you.
Hi, Kirk. Well, thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I'm hoping that we can help out, up and coming folks in our industry with some ideas today, and we'll try to be as accessible as possible afterwards too, if somebody has a question.
Well, Chuck, not to be too effusive, but I've always admired your work. I've admired your posts. You are a man of several talents, and yachting or boating sure seems to be one of them. I'd like to hear a little bit about that before the show gets over with, because that appears to be quite a passion of yours. In fact, tease us, what's the name of your boat I've seen some pictures of?
Well, presently we're in the studios aboard the motor vessel Chartmaker on San Francisco Bay, coming to you courtesy of the Starlink. And on the weekends, we have a sailboat called On Air.
Oh my
And
God. See, wait, you're coming to us from a boat right now.
absolutely, we have a chart of San Francisco Bay right behind us.
I had no idea. I thought you're in your office. Okay, that's well. Maybe you are in your office on the boat.
This is the office these days. Recently, downsizing our studios here in San Francisco with the way real estate goes here. Downsizing continues to be, a common thread with a lot of moves, and we did it as well. The work from home movement certainly set the tone for that. So we have actually reduced the size of the engineering offices substantially. So you're looking at Engineering Central aboard the Chartmaker right now.
That is so awesome. I've never been a boat guy, but I've never been, there's a lot that I'm interested in only vicariously through my friends. And if my friends are having a good time, then I want to know all about what gives them a good time. I enjoyed sailing, boarding other people's boats, but I just have no desire to have one myself. But to have your office there, and do you know a friend of our show, Dick DiBartolo in New York? Do you know Dick?
I certainly know the name. I haven't met Dick.
Gotcha. Well, he was a head writer at Mad Magazine, and he and his partner have a boat. They sail around New York Harbor quite a bit. So, hey, we're going to be talking. We're going to hit our first commercial break here real quick, but we're going to be talking about some very good ideas that Chuck has about evaluating, planning for, and then implementing layers of redundancy in order to be on the air all the time, in order to recover from disasters, equipment failures, and so forth. And people hardly know that anything went wrong. And that is one mark of an amazing engineer. So we're going to be getting to that pretty shortly, actually, right after this. Our show is brought to you in part by our friends at AIR, AIIR.com. And they have a new product out. It's a music scheduler. If you're tired of wrestling with clunky music scheduling software, well, you can meet AIR's music scheduler. It's powerful, it's simplified, and it's right in your browser. It has drag and drop clocks and reusable templates. You can build a day's playlist or an entire month literally in moments. Import your existing library, or you can start fresh, and then assign categories, commands, and audio with lightning speed. Now, the custom-based platform cloud-based platform frees you to schedule from literally anywhere, even on a boat. You can do it anytime, no installations, no headaches, and with fully customizable rules for artist separation, tempo flow, title thresholds, and more. All the things that you're used to in the most high-end scheduling software. You're going to always hit your station's unique sound. You can see issues highlighted in real time, get instant fix suggestions, and export logs effortlessly into Playout One, of course, from AIR, but also into Wide Orbit, into Myriad, into Play It Live, and Station Playlist, and more exports are on the way. Try AIR Music Scheduler. You can try it for free right now through September of this year. And after that, it's just $60 a month per station. If you're ready to simplify your scheduling, make it really convenient for you, visit AIR, that's AIIR, air.com/scheduler, and sign up today. We'll have a link in the show notes, and we truly appreciate the efforts of AIR to make radio easier to produce. Thanks a lot, guys. AIR.com. All right, Kirk Harnack here in the TELUS Alliance studio. Chuck Bullitt is with us, and Chuck, I've read with interest some of your exploits and your ideas on layers of redundancy. And you said, hey, I wrote a paper about that. So, Chuck, if you want to start to carry us through your thoughts on redundancy, the floor is all yours, and I'll only interrupt if I feel the need.
Oh, well, thanks very much, Kirk. Yeah, I'd rather make this more of a discussion about
Sure.
how redundancy works in the broadcast plant, but uh, it's an article I recently wrote and am making available to a couple of the magazines that we all read. But the three layers of redundancy, or the principles of redundancy, is it can be construed as an ideal when you're designing something new, but it's something that can also be undertaken with existing infrastructures. And it's certainly for some folks, when they initially start to think about this, it's kind of a pie in the sky ideal. But
Mhm.
if it is uh, a principle that you use in the way you approach installing new equipment, it will always serve you well in the long run, I think.
Hmm.
Basically, I call it designing for the what ifs. And there's always a what if, and Murphy's Law kind of follows us all around. Right now, I'm managing a power outage at our big KCBS transmitter site.
Ooh.
Um, I think our producer has a picture of the transmitter plant, but it
Yes, I'm
is
guessing you can find that. Yeah.
the big caterpillar is out there and running right now. So we're having a uh, what can be regarded as a heat wave on in Northern California right now, and for us, 90 degrees. There you go. There's the big transmitter that's on the air right now, the 3DX.
Uh
It
huh.
is a uh, kind of a weak power grid that we have in Northern California, and there are so many things that can set it uh, into a big tumble real quick. So we've got, while I wish we had backup generators for the generators, we don't. But
Hmm.
we do have, in some cases, backup power feeds at some of our transmitter sites, and that's always something that is very helpful. In fact, we have one mountain site that has three power feeds coming in. We have to rely on the public power utility here in Northern California, that's Pacific Gas and Electric. It is uh, an area that is subject to extraordinarily high winds. We're right on the Pacific Ocean.
Mm.
The yeah, the winds that we get here can, on a normal day, exceed easily 50 miles an hour. So it's sort of a if you're putting anything up in the air, if you want to put up a quick antenna for that remote,
Hmm.
bring a lot of sandbags. It's
Oh.
you just got to plan for it, you know. Anyway, I like to use a tiered or a layered approach when we put systems together. Um, and the crux of this paper was that we try to have plan A, B, and C ready to go at a moment's notice. Um, Most of my or our transmitters here in our San Francisco cluster, where I manage, uh, are fortunate to have not one, not two, but three transmitters at most sites. And in some cases, that three transmitter main site is also backed up with yet another offsite auxiliary that
Mm.
has N plus one capability, which, for those that aren't familiar with the jargon, simply means that you can change the frequency and change the audio feed to it and turn up the equipment, and you're back on the air.
So, in fact,
Um,
that's an idea that I guess we would end up talking about more. This idea of N plus one, having a backup that can be arranged to be a backup for any of the things like it that would fail, right?
that's
And that's,
correct.
yeah. So, even though I'm a small station operator, we have one site where we're lucky enough to have a single bay broadband FM antenna, and a we can remote control a small Nautel transmitter with any frequency that we want, and we can feed it. We just use an IP codec, and we can feed it
Sure.
from one location. We can feed it with any audio that's in our market. So that would be an N plus one situation. Yeah.
Absolutely. And in our particular situation, we are very fortunate to have a very cool Axia plant. It's all quasar equipped.
Hmm.
And we've got Pathfinder control panels throughout our facility. So, in one particular location in our technical center, we have a panel set up where you can select which audio feed you want to go out the proper audio codec to that backup site. And then conversely, we have a remote control setup where, just like your Nautel, we simply have to go and select the proper frequency. And for God's sakes, don't forget to change the frequency, or make sure you got the right audio. It can go west real quick on you.
West or south, indeed. One thing I'd like to ask you about, because this kind of bothers me, and you may have your answer may be there's nothing you do about that, Kirk. You just got to get the best you can, or yeah, here's a way around that. It seems like in many redundant systems, where you've got say you had commercial power and a generator, or commercial power and maybe two generators, or you have a big UPS. In so many systems, or let's just say you're feeding composite audio to a transmitter, and you've got processor A and processor B. Well, something has to decide where the power is coming from, and something has to decide where the audio is coming from. And it's this last arbiter, the last switch in the system that kind of gives me the willies. Because if that switch breaks in some way, then you can't feed anything to that transmitter, whether you're talking about power or audio. Do you know what I'm talking about? And do you have any philosophies around that last decision point?
Absolutely. That's why we call it layered redundancy.
Oh,
So if one
okay.
thing doesn't work, there's something else you can switch. Having a backup transmitter can certainly help with that. And to probably add to that equation that you just proposed, I have transmitters with main and backup exciters as well, in addition to main and backup composite audio feeds, or these days, digital composite, as it
Mm.
were. In my particular market, we're using brand G, and they very elegantly switch between audio inputs, whether it's digital composite or analog composite,
Mm.
or for that matter, just plain old analog audio for a monophonic station, as far as an FM is concerned. We have a 50 kilowatt AM here as well. While that has dual exciters in that transmitter as well, in the 3DX that our producer put up the photo of a few moments ago. We also have multiple redundant audio processors right next to that transmitter with multiple switching. So any one of a number of 6 or 7 processors can be turned up to feed that transmitter. Um, so can you get into a situation where you don't know where things are?
Mm-hmm.
Possibly. This is where one has to do their homework. And when you connect this equipment, to make sure that the tallies and the reporting statistics, or the reporting tally that comes
Yeah.
back from the equipment, uh, goes to your remote control, and you verify that it's doing what you're telling it or asking it to do. It's probably the best way to go about that. And you know, you could never have enough options available to you. That's what we found in some of the larger storms. Sometimes you just can't imagine everything that will come your way. I was thinking about this today, and some of the teams in our company that are dealing with the recent flood in Texas this week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these recent natural disasters are certainly um, presenting a lot of challenging moments for a lot of our broadcasting brothers and sisters. And uh, the best you can do is plan for it. And if you missed, if you have enough contingencies to choose from, no doubt you'll be able to put something together. It may take you a few hours, but um, when time is of the essence, it's amazing what adrenaline can do. Anyway,
I when
um,
we're gonna take our next break here, Chuck, and
Perfect.
we can continue with whatever you want to talk about. I would like to at some point get into this notion of, okay, let's maybe there's some things I can do to increase my redundancy or my options, and so I'd like to try to identify what are some low hanging fruit. I'd like to understand a process for evaluating what are the things that are most likely to fail. And I know we can't predict them all. Oh my gosh, I never thought that would go wrong. Right. So, but what are the low hanging fruit items that we really can and should implement some backups for? So we'll get to that right after we come back. Our show with Chuck Bullitt. He is the director of technical operations at Odyssey in San Francisco, but he's coming to us from a boat. I'm on a boat. That's so cool. We're going to be right back after this word from our friends at Broadcast Bionics.
Welcome to the Bionic Studio. The Bionic Studio brings all audience interaction to the fingertips of a production team in radio, TV, and podcast. Our workflow-led system is working 24/7 around the world for small broadcasters and national and international networks. Our telephony module, Bionic Talk Show, allows cost-effective centralization, remote operation, scalability, and resilience across an entire network of stations, but at the same time is used in single-studio self-op environments. Social media curation and activity is now considered a broadcast-critical part of programming. Bionic Social means the studio isn't overwhelmed with a wall of interaction from an ever-growing number of social platforms. We combine SMS, MMS, and email together with a speech-to-text service for listeners using smart speakers. We enable studio teams to curate, filter, and display all platforms in one place, and post text, images, and video content to multiple platforms in one operation. Effortless collection of video content with Bionic Director has helped position some of the world's most successful stations as leaders in viral content, generating appointments to listen and free marketing via retweets and shares. Bionic Contest enables end-to-end tracking of on-air competitions, live reads, and prizes. These could be on-air contests, automated SMS entry, or online. Anywhere, and Skype TX for Radio brings high-quality audio and video contribution into the studio with ease. No need for dedicated PCs to run different applications. Everything is controlled within the Bionic Studio UI, and incoming connections are visible to users along with all other platforms. Our codec integration enables connection, algorithm configuration, and directory to a wide range of IP and ISDN codecs. The Bionic Studio, a unique suite of products designed to enable your talent to work smarter.
Broadcast Bionics and the Bionic Studio. They do so many cool things at Broadcast Bionics to make radio better for us as engineers and for the content creators. And of course, it ends up being good for the listeners. So check them out, bionics.co.uk. Thanks a lot, Dan McQuillan, and everybody at Broadcast Bionics. I'm Kirk Harnack at This Week in Radio Tech, and we're talking with Chuck Bullitt. He is in San Francisco, and he's on a boat, but he's managing a power outage right now. So, Chuck, were you in the middle of a thought that I cut you off from?
No, it's a continuing dialogue, and it was wonderful. But you took it right to a place where we should go. What are some of the low hanging fruit? What's some of the low hanging fruit? What are some ideas that are easily graspable and that can be done right away?
Yeah.
So you get a call at 6:05 a.m. Your morning show host calls you and says, "My microphone just fell off the stand. What am I supposed to do?" Mm-hmm. Well, he doesn't have a handy screwdriver in his hand to go put it back together. These sexy new aluminum extruded mic stands have a tendency to break at one particular weak point, particularly with some of the newer, heavier microphones. And in a talk radio situation, our newsrooms and our sports studios, those LEDs are on a lot, and they'd heat up. So anyway, the end of this, where I'm going with this is that they do have a tendency to fail every so often. And if it does, hey, do you have a backup microphone position in your studio? Can they go to the guest mic? Can they just swing it over and turn on the guest mic instead? Is that a viable option for them? Yeah, the mix minus, if you have it set up, may not be exactly right, but just swing over the guest mic and, when you speak with your talent on the phone, they'll think you're brilliant, because that's not something that certainly they thought of right away, right? Um, other simple things to do for backing up a main studio, besides having another studio to go to. Um, have multiple mic positions that are easily attainable. Do you have any? Um, I hate to say it, a CD player or an MD player in the studio.
Hmm.
The your playout computer system goes down, God forbid. But hey, it does. It's been known to happen. Do you have any evergreen material, something that you can put on the air and that is timeless in nature and can be played? It may be an old interview with the mayor, as long as that person's still mayor. Why not? You know,
Here's what the mayor had to
Kurt,
say
you're the
about this
mayor.
2
You're
years
the
ago.
mayor of. You're like the mayor of NAB. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's sometimes it's the simple answers that can elude us. But having some fresh audio that was recorded by somebody in your operation that is maybe dropped onto an MD player weekly, that you can bring up in a heartbeat. One thing that we do at our music FM stations is that we have a secondary, completely secondary playout computer for our automation system, loaded with the library and all the voice tracks, and it's always updating in the background. Um, I'm privileged in that we have enough bandwidth at our transmitter sites to be able to support such an operation like that.
Hmm.
And in one particular site, we have 3 FM transmitters. 2 of those are music formats. So one automation computer can handle the needs of 2 music stations with 2 logs playing through its audio card with multiple outputs. Um, that's been a very handy go-to in uh, in a time when we're seeing temperatures go up and down here in the Bay Area. When we see temperature fluctuations like we've had, uh, we have an awful lot of STL shots, studio to transmitter links, that shoot over water paths. And
Oh.
water paths fall apart, as you well know, having stations in Hawaii, Kirk, that can be problematic. So, in addition to that, even our internet provider, which is a very high powered commercial microwave delivered system, is delivered over water. So that's been known to fall apart as well at the same time as our 950 megahertz equipment falls apart. So what to do? Thank goodness we've got a backup automation system that we can turn on, and in the absence of any audio, if you lose your internet connectivity and you can't control what's going on at the transmitter site,
Mm-hmm.
the next step to that level is to make sure that that backup automation system is set to default in any kind of switcher that you have set up if everything else goes silent. There's a number of manufacturers that make such audio switchers, and if somebody wants to talk about that, I'm happy to help them on finding the right product or find the right design that might work for them. But in other words, all the STLs go quiet, it will switch to your automation system, and it will at least keep you back or keep you on the air and making bank by being able to play your spot load, and hopefully your jock will continue with their show. If they're not live, if they're voice tracked, uh, perhaps if they were live, they're going to be voice tracking very quickly, and they'll just have to play beat the clock and make sure they get their voice track in on time. That's all. So
The,
other alternatives that you've run into, Hawaii, Kirk, might be very helpful here too, because you've run into some challenges there.
and my stations are sometimes with the size and budget that backups are hard to come by. So we kind of we have to say, okay, what failed last year, and how can we inexpensively work around if that failure happens again. One thing that I have been attuned to, and I've pushed this idea, and maybe it's not always true. On the one hand, we've had great luck with 950 megahertz analog STLs, the kind that you can still buy somewhat inexpensively. We found those generally to be pretty inexpensive and very reliable overall. But if your 950 megahertz transmitter or receiver fails, you can't get on Amazon and buy a new one. Those are pretty vendor specific, and the technology is very peculiar to broadcast. But if you're using IP connected stuff, well, there's lots of ways to connect IP. And I'm looking here at next to my desk. I've got a computer that pings 14 different sites all day and all night, and gives me a look at the health with a graph of the ping times, or whether a ping doesn't return at all. And I'm reminded that there's a transmitter site of a community station in Memphis that I do some engineering for, and they can't get a 950 shot, so they do micro MPX over public internet to get audio to the transmitter site. But their internet supplier, a big name, has been kind of unreliable. A big storm comes along and they're off for 3 days. So we also use 4G LTE to have a backup feed out there, and it's unlimited data on the plan. So I see it all the time. I see one of them drop out, and the other one will just keep on rolling, because that micro MPX is a technology that people who build equipment for it tend to have a dual path capability that's quite easy to implement. So my point is that we kind of felt there'd be a problem there, and for $50 or $55 a month, we've got a commercial T-Mobile hotspot out there, which can, and there's others as well. One of our advertisers, Max Connect, will be glad to do you hotspots with prioritized data as well. So that was some low-hanging fruit. We figured we'd have a problem with 24/7 internet, and so since that was the only way they had to be on the air, we got a backup for $55 a month. So to me, that's taking care of low-hanging fruit. Now we got to take care of their transmitter, which is ages old. So there'll be another problem there.
Sure.
So my whole point in that,
we've done some of the big stations do the very same thing. I mean,
yeah,
the 4G LTE solution, absolutely have to recommend it. Dedicate a codec to it. It's always on. It's always there, and it can be switched to.
Another thing that I have found, and you can go off and riff on this, is sometimes redundancy can be easily built in. Like if I don't have money for 2 audio processors, but I've got one audio processor that has an analog input and an AES-67 input, well, I've got a studio in Hawaii that has this, and we had 2 of the Axia X nodes. Both of them were the mixed signal X nodes, so they have some analog ins and outs, and they have one AES EBU in and out, and some GPIO. And I thought, well, what? Instead of taking one X node and getting the analog out of it and going into this particular processor didn't take Livewire, and I could take the AES EBU output and go into the processor. Well, why get them both from the same node? If the one node, if it ever dies, I've lost both sources of audio. So I took AES from one X node and analog from the other X node, and the processor, of course, can fail over automatically to either one. So I'm using something I already had to make the system more reliable in case one of the X nodes fails. It seems like your efforts also point along those lines. See what you have, and how can I make it work for me more reliably, or give me some backup?
Completely. Most of these processors that you reference have programmable switching, it's either an enable or disable kind of selection on an audio processor to flip between the digital and the analog input. So having one audio feed coming in off of your analog, I'm going to call it the analog 950 STL. In many cases these days, that's also a digital radio as well, but it often will also provide a AES and an analog output. Then take an IP codec, as you've mentioned, on the big 4G LTE modem. I think ours is with the carrier Verizon or somebody like that. I don't know. We have, like you've suggested, we have an unlimited data plan as well, and it has proved to be significantly valuable. in one site, while there is fiber, um, and we've had. It's also an area where there's that was subject to fires in the past few years. We've lost the ability to get a signal there often, but we've always managed to be able to stay on the air because of we do have a Starlink at that particular site. It does have some latency issues, but when hey, look, when it comes down to it, if you're on the air, you're on the air, and that's what it takes. You do what it takes, and using what you have on site. Um, Most of our Northern California locations have resorted to satellite as a last resort. The the temperatures these days and the fires that we've had to contend with out west have certainly led us down that path, and it served us well because there's always the unexpected, the big windstorm that comes up and takes down all the phone poles. In one particular site, they flew our fiber aerially or hung it on the phone poles with the telephone cabling that comes down the road for 2 or 3 miles, and the phone poles are pretty jaggedy and they're kind of wobbling in the wind, and we expect those to go down any day. So, any system that you can have to back up another is always worthwhile. But we just try to have three of them because if one goes down, then you've got a main and a backup. If two go down, then you're left with what now is your main. So I think it just increases your chances of success in a number of situations. We briefly covered some studio to transmitter links. What are some of the other options? Licensed commercial microwave for some broadcasters is a reality, but contained within the licensed microwave, there's all sorts of ways that you can push a signal over that microwave that also should have some inherent backup capabilities as well. In particular, we've got one system that provides for TDM layer as well as IP layers, and it has been helpful when we've had to do a reset of our Axia system, and we've lost any signaling coming in from the X nodes that feed some of those. So, in order to reboot, those servers, we have a TDM infrastructure that flies over that microwave as well. And when I say TDM, what I'm really referring to is T1 circuits, and we simply leverage all of the leftover old Intraplex stuff that we had laying around, and we had volumes of it after the phone companies abandoned T1 services here out where we are, and I guess in most locations. So you can still become your own T1 network over your microwave, and it's not that hard to locate, some equipment that has provisions for T1 or in using the European standard, the E1 standard.
Yeah.
So very helpful. And the cool thing about the T1s is that, they're all channelized and you can push a lot of services over a T1 frame still. And if that's coming in at the same time as your usual IP codecs, they may not have the fancy high data rate and the great sounding 192 kilohertz digital audio that everyone thinks that they need to have. But hey, you're still on the air, and it's better than tin cans and string, I think. So there's still a Marty.
Yeah,
who has a Marty in their market?
I take it
Marty
that
radio?
I take it that you're not above, if worse comes to worse and all you can do is get your internet stream onto your transmitter, you're not above doing that if you need to stay on the air. Yeah.
We've done that in a big market, and we didn't get any kind of phone signals or electricity back at that site for 10 days, and we're talking about San Francisco. I mean, really big site. It things were pretty bad. It had been a very bad storm. So I don't care if it's snow. I don't care if it's wind. I don't care if it's rain. I think that Mother Nature is lashing out at us a little bit worse than she used to in days of old. And anything that we can do to increase our chances of survivability with these particular instances is helpful. Um, the three layers of redundancy, sometimes it has to become 4 or 5 layers. Um, and within those layers are it's like an onion, Kirk. We have to peel it back, and you keep finding more things that you can do within certain strategies. So within a strategy, there may be 3 or 4 more ways you can go. It takes some creativity. Our mission statement within our company, one of the mission monikers is hashtag creativity, and we have to chase that often throughout the course of our day when we have to come up with a quick solution. Um, the three-tiered design approach, delivering reliable service, is really what it's all about. The continuation of services, uh, affecting the listener's experience, is really what we're talking about. In
Yeah.
our experience with the news talk radio station that I've been a privileged to be the chief engineer for a number of years, it's like, they look to us like the power company, although the power company is uh, less reliable these days. But a hospital has to remain open 24/7, 365. And they expect those emergency doors to be open when they need it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but AM radio still reigns supreme, particularly in our area of the country where we're very mountainous. FM radio doesn't penetrate very well here. So AM radio is still a very important commodity out where we live. And we hear about it if something is compromising our 50 kilowatt AM signal for sure. And if folks can't listen to the news and drink their coffee a couple of 100 miles away, but they still want to know what's going on in San Francisco, we usually and generally hear about it. And I have become fairly familiar with a lot of our listeners that live out in those parts because I want to know what their impressions are of our signal. Their reception reports are actually very valuable because it will let me know that there's something going on with our transmission system, which rarely, if ever, occurs. But weather changes, soil conductivity changes. We can't really plan for that other than to be aware of it. And making sure that the news must go on is really what it's all about for us. About the one place where we're missing right now is that we don't have a backup generator for that particular station. That is a backup for the backup generator that, as I speak to you, is still running. It has plenty of fuel to go for days and days and days, Kirk, but it's, thankfully our friends at FEMA have taken good care of us, and we make sure it keeps running.
We're going to take a break. We're talking to Chuck Bullitt. He's the Director of Technical Operations there at Odyssey in the whole cluster of stations there in San Francisco. And when we come back, there's a couple of topics. I'm sure that there's this paper here is quite extensive. We're not going to get to all of it. I would like to understand from Chuck some of the options for redundancy in AM stations, because so many stations have one tower or they've got a directional tower site, and that's it. I know down the road from me is WSM radio. They've got a huge tall tower, and then they've got a little shorty tower as their backup when they have to, get somebody to jump on the big tower to paint it or something. I'd like to understand that. And Chuck, I'd like to understand some of your thoughts about the differences between relying on cloud-based systems, which I tend to find to be extraordinarily reliable, or having things on site. Of course, if your on site is compromised, then it's no longer a site you can use or depend on. So you might have to have more than one on site. So anyway, we've got questions coming up that Chuck is going to talk about. I'm Kirk Harnack. It's This Week in Radio Tech, and our show is brought to you in part by Angry Audio. Excuse me. I'm not angry. I just got a cough. Angry Audio is a place to get this amazing audio console that Mike Dosh has designed. And Mike's designed a number of consoles in his time. And this one is an analog console that is built to last and built to function very, very well. It's the Rave console from Angry Audio. Now, what is special about the Rave console? Well, what isn't? It's got, of course, preview Q on every input. It has 2 stereo output mix buses, and program and audition, if you will. It has an on-air indicator light that lights up when the mics are open and monitors muted. Of course, that's on the console, but of course, it'll run an external one as well. Dedicated meters for both of your output mix buses. The surface itself, it's this beautiful machined aluminum control surface, and the markings on it are laser etched. Mike Dosh has always been a big fan of laser etched markings. That means they won't rub off. They will still be there. Yeah, they'll go through cleaning after cleaning or dirt after dirt, and they're still there. There is a built-in headphone amplifier, flexible monitoring section for the board operator. The faders, well, they are what you call full throw faders for, of course, all 8 inputs and for the monitor and headphone volume. There are 2 mix minus outputs with talkback. There's a very ergonomic wrist rest on the front. Very nice. Channels 1 through 4 are switchable between mics and lines. Channels 5 and 6 switchable between Pro levels and IHF or, RCA type level inputs. And channels 7 and 8 are capable of mix minus. The on-off buttons are slightly recessed to prevent, I should say, accidental actuation. Easy for me to say. Check it out, the Rave console from Angry Audio. It is a thing of beauty. It'll last you forever, and it's a great value too. You have to check it out from your favorite dealer. But it's from Angry Audio, and you can watch all about it, read all about it at angryaudio.com. Our show is also brought to you by Max Connect. We were talking about 4G LTE solutions, and of course, Max Connect does that to give you redundancy. They even have a solution where they give you satellite and 4G LTE automatically switchable by your priority, your data usage, and what's working. But they also, at Max Connect, they make this wonderful box called the U.192. A lot of stations are interested in software FM audio processing solutions. And like the company I work for, the Omnia SST is one of those. There's also Stereo Tool, and there's Breakaway One. And these all run in a Windows environment. Well, the problem with these is it's hard to find an appropriate output device that will put out a proper multiplex signal. Well, the U192 changes that. Unlike other sound cards, the U192 is purpose-built for software audio processing. Other sound cards may or may not be able to deliver MPX signals, and it can be trial and error to find a card that works, and even then, it might require an amplifier after the output to get the right signal level. Well, the U192 allows input and output on the same card, with no other USB card can offer this. Plus, it offers digital or analog input, and it offers the MPX output as well as digital and analog left-right output. It's really an amazing box, and custom, designed exactly for what we do in broadcasting. In broadcasting and FM broadcasting, the multiplex signal is really, I guess you might call it, sacrosanct. I mean, it's a little bit fragile. You need to treat it right. You need to have a perfect signal and deliver to your exciter or to your composite STL for transmission. And the U192 absolutely does that. From Max Connect. Check it out from your favorite dealer or go to maxconnect.com. We'll have a link in the show notes to check out the U.192 and take advantage of software FM audio processing. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack, and this week at Radio Tech, our guest is Chuck Bullitt. He's on a boat. Chuck, you want to talk a little bit about, you mentioned AM a couple times here, and like I said, down the road for me is WSM. They got a main tower and a little bitty squirty tower that they can't put a whole lot of power into, but it keeps them on the air when somebody's got to jump on the 50 kilowatter. Tell me about what you like to see in redundancy for an AM transmission system.
Well, thanks, Kirk. And again, I'm so glad to be here this week. I've been watching you for years, and it's a great show, and it's hugely informative. I'm an old ham radio operator. I've had ham radio license for 50 years this year. So, firm believer in wire antennas. And let's say you've got a non-directional single tower AM, a 1 kilowatt. It's not too hard to affect a backup antenna for such a radio station using nothing more than humble wire, provided the copper thieves haven't grabbed it. But Yeah, a wire backup antenna and some coax to a 500 to a 1,000 watt transmitter will keep everybody on the air for quite some time until other means can be figured out to get your single monopole repaired or fixed. In a multiple tower directional antenna situation, let me talk about my station, for instance. On the big 740 in San Francisco, it's a 4 tower array. It's not a very complicated array, and uh, quite honestly, there's not that much difference between our day pattern and our night pattern. But we're fortunate that somebody, when they designed this system, thought about maintenance ahead of time. And they designed two non directional tower networks to supplement the directional tower network. And it only took one or two components and a couple of extra relays to be able to affect that design. And it is a huge advantage to be able to easily perform tower maintenance. I got to tell you, KCBS radio is built right next door to an airport, and we've got to keep the tower lights on 24 hours a day. And those
Oh,
tower lights don't keep themselves on. So the pilots that fly in and out of that airfield, I'm sure appreciate the fact that we're diligent about keeping those lights lit. But in order to keep them lit, guess what? We got to get guys on the tower. So we do have a 12,000 or 12,000 watt non-directional authorization,
mhm.
and we have two non-directional towers that we can choose from. So in that particular instance, we're very blessed that we can easily switch between two non-D towers or two non-directional towers, ground out the unused towers, and obtain access to those and perform maintenance. I've also got to do some work coming up on our monitor loops. The power is so high on this station and the frequency is so low, we can't do what is called a method of moments application. And so we still
Oh,
have to go out and take points in AM talk that's called going out and actually taking a meter reading of how strong the signal is at certain points that are specified on the license. Anyway, multiple tower situations, that's one way to go. But in terms of smaller, lower power situations, even a 5,000 watt station can get by with a couple of kilowatts. And the hams for years and years and years, Kirk, have been pushing a kilowatt into a wire with great success. So I have
mhm.
no doubt that affecting a wire between a building and a tree
Yeah,
and whatever's available, a ladder, whatever you got, run what you brung, and hang a wire somewhere, and use your technical personnel to design the antenna. Don't forget to apply for the STA from the FCC, of course,
yeah,
and to tell
yeah.
them what you're doing. And sometimes that's nothing more than sending a letter or sending an email, but at least you've notified them of what you're doing. And with the number of floods, the raging waters that we've seen, and often AM radio stations are, guess what, built in flood zones. Because why? Because the soil conductivity there is really, really good. Guess what? It also subjects it to the chances that the whole site might get washed away. So,
Indeed.
it,
Yeah.
right? So I'm just saying that keeping a reel of wire around and some spare insulators and a bunch of coax handy, maybe not such a bad idea.
But between airplanes and rising water, some AM towers are in precarious places, aren't they?
Oh, and did I mention our radio station is right next to a river?
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah. All right.
Uh huh. I
Hey,
mean, I
so
go out to the towers and I see tugboats pushing barges. It's that close.
yeah. In we just have a few minutes left. I'd like to hear your thoughts. With today's modern technology that you can virtualize your broadcast infrastructure to a pretty large degree. And with the possibility of EAS becoming authorized to run in software instead of having to have hardware boxes, which are running software anyway, it becomes possible to virtualize all this either on premises or in the cloud. And I'd like to hear some of your thoughts about what place does cloud-based operations, data centers run by people who really understand how to run data centers and have multiple internet connections going in and out. What are your thoughts about broadcasting's place vis-a-vis doing it yourself with multiple systems, or moving some things, or at least disaster recovery, into cloud-based operations?
I think the answer winds up being C. Somewhere
Yeah.
or somewhere in the middle, actually. Um, in terms of cloud-based EAS software, the first thing that is compromised in most uh, bad weather situations or a crisis, typically the internet falls apart or the internet gets blocked.
Yeah.
For a whole host of reasons. It could be for any reason. So I think the argument comes back to mission critical equipment, such as alerting equipment like EAS, probably needs to be home rolled to some degree. There could still, we still have part of our EAS system in the cloud, and we are delivering a lot of services to our EAS system via satellite and via the internet these days. I'm working with FEMA next week to test some of those systems, and we have a couple of different ways to get the command center in Arlington out to San Francisco, and that includes fiber, but it also includes a satellite downlink, and we have a local encoder as well that has, believe it or not, a plain old telephone service piece of copper servicing it. So they have 3 layers of redundancy to be able to get audio into the local. We're the PEP1, or we are the LP1 for our market. And this particular radio station does have 3 layers of redundancy for the EAS equipment that's at the transmitter side. And that, by the way, was really the principal idea that came into this paper was derived from the EAS approach, that FEMA's approach to how they deploy EAS out to the LP1s and to the PEP stations. So it's not a new idea. It's just a new discussion. And cloud-based systems, yes, for music delivery, for processing, if you've got great internet, like you said, and multiple carriers available to you, it may be an ideal solution. For those that have higher expectations, higher pressures, maybe you're in an unrated market, hallelujah, go for it. And especially if it means a significant cost savings. And remember, if you don't have to buy it, rent it. I don't know. I heard that somewhere. But that's kind of where I am on the discussion. I mean, again, it's somewhere in the middle, and it has to be a graduated response or a decision. Again, based on, are you in a rated market? How important is it to you? I mean, if you go off the air, what does it cost you? That's really what it comes down to.
Interesting. And so one could think, well, we have a main studio in the middle of big city A, and we could do backup studios somewhere. We could pay for real estate, or maybe we own a piece of property, or maybe backup studios could be in the cloud, so where you'd still be, mostly operate from an on-premises solution. But if something, I mean, if your building has a bomb scare, well, everybody has to evacuate. We've seen that happen before. Or maybe a fire, or flood, and you have to operate from somewhere else. But that somewhere else, may not have to be in another building across town. or it could be at the. Oh my goodness, our station in American Samoa, we had a flood there. We ended up operating from the transmitter site, which wasn't designed to do that, but we took our remote pop-up tent, right, and put it in front of the door of the transmitter site, and put a coffee table out there, or a folding table, and put on headsets and the sports mixer, and off we went for the next several days like that. Wow.
I if I could contribute,
Yeah.
we have we still have a PRNE. For those that don't know, that's a Pacific Recorders console. Called a radio mixer. It's still active. We still have parts for it, and we still support it. And it's going to be working for years to come, probably. But that's in our standby studio at the KCBS transmitter. That's the place that our people have to go. It is fully provisioned with backup food, MREs provided by our U.S. government's FEMA program. There's a couple of fold-up bunks available if people get stuck there. I don't care if your mountaintop transmitter site is a 10-minute drive to the nearby grocery store. You should still probably have some kind of emergency provisions on site, and a microphone, a mixer, and a way to get an audio signal into that transmitter. To your point, a tent, perfect. If you're a company with multiple stations and maybe nearby markets, well, the advent of the IP codec has been a huge revelation for us, and the ability to be able to basically broadcast a signal to any transmitter from anywhere has become a huge, huge advantage for all of us. So being able to, for instance, move our team to Sacramento, which is 90 miles away from San Francisco, if we had to, we could do it. And we've got brothers and sisters working out of KNX in Los Angeles, and we've done the same for them during the fires. We've trading spaces like that is, thankfully, because of the IP codec, a real blessing for us these days in terms of having to think quickly and to move people quickly and respond to something of that nature.
Chuck, we've got just a few minutes left, and I've got one more sponsor to chat about, some good information for people. And when we come back, as usual, I forgot to tell Chuck about his responsibility for the end of the show. We're looking for a tip of the week, Chuck, from you, something that people can take away and maybe take some action on, read about, use, whether it's online or an idea or some good healthful homework that our listeners could engage in. So we'll look to you for a tip of the week coming up in just a couple minutes. I'm talking to Chuck Bullitt, the Director of Technical Operations at Odyssey in San Francisco. It's a big job, and apparently it's getting done very, very well. Our show is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store, and they represent just about everything you could need in your modern broadcast studio. One of those things actually might go at the transmitter side, and that is a remote control system. So many remote controls can be done over SNMP, or maybe they're built into the transmitter, but sometimes you just got to have a way to control stuff, and maybe you want to replace your existing remote control, but you don't want things to be too different. Well, the Broadcast Tools WVRC 8 Plus, I know it's a lot of syllables there. The WVRC 8 Plus, it's a web and voice remote control. I guess that's what WVRC stands for, web voice remote control. It is a cost-effective web-enabled remote control that features a desktop mobile browser compatible web interface and a dial-up telephone voice interface. So it's got both. It's got old-fashioned for dial-up, and it's got the new fashion. It's got the web interface. It's in a small 1RU form factor. It's got 8 raise relays, 8 lower relays, 8 status inputs, and 8 metering inputs. Plus, it does, in addition to those things, it's got a temperature probe input and a separate silence sense input. One more thing, it's got a power fail input. The WVRC 8 Plus is designed from a user's point of view, so all of the basic functionality you need is included to control and monitor your site equipment, while including the accessories that other manufacturers consider optional. There's support for email, basic SMTP authentication, as well as SNMP, that's built in. The WVRC 8 Plus is supplied with spoken words and phrases in English, but you can record your own words and phrases in whatever language you like. That's pretty cool. Each analog status, silence sensor, temperature sensor, and power failure input can be configured to dial out or email up to 8 individual phone numbers or email addresses, allowing different alarm inputs to be routed to different call-out numbers. So, hey, if the transmitter site is way too hot, you can call the engineer, but if there's silence, well, maybe you call the program director first. Event-driven and time-based automatic program scheduling is available. The clock stays really accurate. I forget the exact accuracy, but you'll be impressed. And it's just got a whole raft of features. I love this box. It's so cool. The WVRC 8 Plus web and voice dial-up remote control from Broadcast Tools. Of course, you can get yours from Broadcaster's General Store. Their website, bgs.cc, an amazingly useful website. Love what these guys have done to improve things over the years. It's just great. And they love to talk to you on the phone, too. So if you're lonely or if you want an instant answer, give them a call at 352-622-7700. And as the late, great Sam Phillips used to say to me, Kurt, get them pretty ladies at BGS on the phone and let's buy something. So check it out. Thanks a lot, BGS, Broadcaster General Store in Ocala, Florida, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. All right, we have just a couple minutes remaining in our chat with Chuck Bullitt. Chuck, have I put you on the spot enough here? Do you have a tip for our audience?
I probably have a couple, but
Okay.
Our good friend, I had given this to our good friend John Bissett a few weeks ago, and you may see it pop up sometime soon. But there are a number of engineers that have to write the dreaded weekly report. Yeah, you just frowned. The weekly report. I mean, what could be more drone or boring possibly than having to submit a weekly report every week? Well,
Okay.
why don't you turn it into a newsletter? I've created something that we call in San Francisco in our radio group the Pocket Protector Report. And the weekly Pocket Protector. If it's not in the Pocket Protector, then it didn't happen and we don't talk about it. But the Pocket Protector Report comes out on Fridays. It's the weekly engineering report. It goes all the way up to the top of the company, and it has met with rave reviews, and it has some silly little iconic graphics like, well, a pocket protector. And a little bit of humor goes a long way, but it covers all of the significant actions of the week, but it is, it does it in a lighthearted way, and it's still quoted often in the company, and it has become an icon of our particular market here in San Francisco. So the Pocket Protector Report, you're welcome to steal the idea and use it in your market as well.
Oh, wow. And everyone knows it's the engineer who wears the pocket protector because, you got a whole raft of tools in there, screwdrivers and pens and all manner of things. So wonderful. I like that. I like that idea. Some people subscribe to it. I get every month I get an email from Crawford Broadcasting. They have all their city directors of engineering write up reports as to what they've been doing, and then they publish it for the industry. So that's a great idea. It does keep everybody up to date. Chuck, I want to thank you so much for being with us. You've given your time, and you spent some time putting that together. We got a couple minutes left. Are there any pictures that you'd like to real quick, boom, because Suncast, if you can get a couple pictures, especially of the boats, that would be cool to have a look at.
There you go.
Here. Okay, tell us what we're looking at.
Here's the good ship chart maker from which I am speaking right now.
Oh,
courtesy of Starlink. We have moved locations since that photograph, and the boat looks a little bit better, I would have to say, these days. But it's been our home for coming up on 11 years, and it has been a very spacious home for us in San Francisco. And let's just say that we are living in an earthquake-prone area, so guess what our contingency is? Fire up the diesels, and off we go.
Oh, yeah. All right. Suncast.
Then there's our weekend. Oh, there's the good my lovely first mate Lisa, on the deck, and we're heading off on some great cruise somewhere. Then we have on air, which I lovingly call our weekend convertible, and that's our little sailboat. And that's been very lovely for us to be able to get. There are places where we can't get Chartmaker. So if we want to slip into a place that is a little less grand in scale, the sailboat can slip into places that the good ship Chartmaker can't. So there you go.
And you've got, I guess, a lifetime of skill in piloting these boats. You good at it?
Oh, it's like driving a Greyhound bus, but yes. So we're both my spouse and I are rated captains on San Francisco Bay and in anywhere else in the world. So we're rated by the Coast Guard and can help you move a boat, I guess, if you need a boat moved. And we've seen a few things, kind of like that insurance commercial. We've seen a few things.
So let's just imagine that. I don't know if you ever charge for giving rides, but what if I gave you a call and said, "Hey, Chuck, I'm over on Alcatraz, and I wonder if you could pick me up."
Yeah, well, there's some police that may have a problem with that, but
Okay.
You could swim ashore and we'd pick you up there. So there you are.
Swim ashore, yeah, through the shark-infested waters. All right, Chuck Bullitt, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I thank you so much for being on the show. I've thought about calling you for years and thought, oh, what if Chuck would do it? And you had some post on Facebook recently that made me think, he is a jovial guy. Let's just get him on the show. So,
Thanks
I appreciate it very much.
I appreciate the information.
Don't hang up. We're going to get a picture of you here in just a minute. I want to thank Suncast, our producer, for producing This Week in Radio Tech. Sure appreciate you, sir. And we're going to be back next week. Next week, we might, if luck will hang with us, we've got a guest, Dave Anderson from Sarasota, Florida, is going to be talking to us about, well, actually, some of the same audio consoles that Chuck did, and that's some Quasar audio consoles. But importantly, he just had to move some studios, and he's going to tell us about the adventure of moving audio over IP-based studios and how that technology helped him to do it pretty easily. Not a whole lot of trouble involved. So that'll be coming up next week. We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech.